Think this is funny?
Yeah. I think this is absolutely hilarious.
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, Leo sent me PERMAFROST, and this 2024 film was directed by Lenni Uitto and actually stars Lenni as well, along with Riley Hardy and Corey Dangerfield, among others, of course. The story of this movie takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the world has entered into another ice age. I think they say it's for a super solar minimum or something like that. Anyways, everything is frozen, everything is covered in snow, everything is permafrost, and society has collapsed because of it. However, there turns out to be these gulags that have survived for some reason, and they kind of create their own factions. And so each kind of gulag, I guess, has its own faction. But they also cater to the rich, and the rich are just putting bounties on people to, bring them back to their gulags. And our story involves one of these bounty hunter people who are going around collecting these, warrants for these people. And then one day he is tasked with collecting this child. But once he does meet the child, he's like, nah, I don't really want to take her back to the gulag. So together they start walking through the wasteland, escaping different bounty hunters, and just trying to survive. What will happen though? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. Alright, so let's discuss this movie. So what works with this one? Well, I gotta say, in this post-apocalyptic world, I think it's fairly well realized, and I thought that was pretty enjoyable. With this one, they have their gulags, and kind of makes sense that if the world is going into an ice age, then the gulags would kind of survive the collapse of society. After all, real life gulags are, in the Arctic Circle, so they're very well situated to survive any kind of ice catastrophe, right? And then how they've become the dominant culture in the permafrost area, I thought that was really cool. And then they also have like certain characters, with Russian accents because, why not? And then the different factions are also really interesting. Our main character, he's part of, I guess, the main faction. I forget what they're called, but they have like a little hammer and a chain that they just kind of whip around. And it's a very kind of distinctive and unique kind of characteristic of this faction. Of course, there's other ones as well. They have like a ghost tribe faction. They have, a hunter faction. They have all these different kind of factions out there. And the way they kind of have a hierarchy, I thought was really interesting. And so ultimately, no matter where you are in the story, you're kind of discovering something about the world, whether it's a faction or, the hierarchy or whatever. And I don't know, it's just very interesting that way. It certainly makes it for an easy watch where you're always looking for what's new in this world to, put another puzzle piece together in, the ultimate scheme of things. And so I think this one certainly is a good post-apocalyptic watch. Also, I thought the scenery was really cool. It is all, snow covered and everything like that. And, with global warming these days, around here, it doesn't snow that much anymore where, it used to. And so seeing just so much snow, I thought was a fun, experience. And then the way that they kind of have it framed and laid out certainly is a very beautiful scenery as well. And then sometimes when it's just heavy snow and it's the beautiful, thick, heavy snow, I love that too. That was great. And so just the scenery and how it's filmed and the shooting all go into it to make a fun post-apocalyptic world that you might not see that often. Usually with post-apocalyptic stuff, it's the desert or whatever, but never, snow covered. I guess I can think of a few. What was it? Neon City, I think, was one. But it's just not a common post-apocalyptic world, and I certainly think it works. I think with this one, it was filmed in Utah, so I guess Utah is still getting snow, so, good on them. But yeah, very cool scenery. Other than that, I think it's just a well put together film. The sound is all good. Even the acting, I think, is good too. With this one, the director is also the star of it, so that can also, play into it sometimes. But with this one, Lenni does a good job. What can I tell you? So certainly the acting and everything else, I think it's just good with this one. And that brings me to what doesn't work with this film. Well, certainly it's just a low budget one, so I would not say too many things don't work with it. I certainly had a fun time with it. I would say there's a few just elements here or there that just are like, why would you do it that way? Like, for example, there is a few story elements where it's just like the hand of God comes in and just, cleans up everything. And I'm not going to give too much away, but it's just, when it does happen, it's kind of jarring. And it's just like, why would that happen? Especially since everything kind of seemed well thought out up until that point. And then, of course, they explain it with, this guy comes in or whatever. And they do that, I think, also towards the end as well. So they kind of just have these two jarring, really bizarre moments where, everything just is solved automatically. And it just kind of, I don't know, deflates kind of any tension they have there. Other than that, I think with this one, I happen to know what the permafrost looks like. And none of this is in the permafrost. Like, it's shot in Utah and they don't have permafrost. Permafrost is like grassland, essentially. And they have trees and forests, and they're walking through the forest and all this other type of stuff. So I also didn't believe that was in the permafrost. I guess if it's, an ice age, then, where the permafrost or the definition of permafrost might change. But, as it stands, I was like, oh, that's not the permafrost. But, that's just a small nitpick. That's something that's just kind of funny. I thought I'd throw in there. But yeah, ultimately, I think not too much of it is bad. Certainly, I went along with it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, I think, just as it went along. So overall, I would say this one has a lot more good things than it does bad. As for a recommendation, well, certainly if you're a post-apocalyptic fan, I think you should check this one out. It will give you quite a few things to think about and a few things to, piece together as you're going along, and can be rather engaging that way. And so if that sounds like you, then yeah, press play on this one. With this one, it's also on Tubi, so you can go over there and press play. As for rating, well, I gotta give it the above average score of 6. I thought it was pretty good. And so with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So please join us for our next one. Like and subscribe, of course, and I will see you there.